Okay guys, so I'm going to bring you something a little bit different today. I usually would save this activity for my ambience channel. However, I wanted to call it ASMR. It's not really ASMR though. However, God told me just to spend time with him last week. Because what I have typically done out here, work on my form here, is I've really just come out here without much of a script and talk to you all. And there has been a good point made that typically I just talk about the same stuff ad nauseum. And while that is true, let's try the other axe right now. I try this one all the time. While that is true, I'm just trying to get the message out there, but I also have this tendency to become a stream of consciousness. So today, I figured I'd actually do an activity. Not a bad hit. Actually felt really good. I'd actually do a somewhat interesting activity while I talk to you all today. And I hope that's okay with you. Comment below if you prefer this style over me just sitting in nature. Let's see what we can do. This is actually doing really good. Actually fixing my form helped as well. Believe it or not. I was swinging mildly before. If you go to the Countryside Ambience channel and look at the most recent Woodsplitting video I did, you'll see that I was not doing the best. Now granted, this is going to split. This is the log where in that video I failed on. And the fun thing about that is, let's see if I can split this with my fingies. Nope, not yet. One thing about that one is that this is the log where I failed at the end. And the reason I was so gassed, this is typical for my wood splitting videos, is that I tend to save wood splitting for after I've been either working out or doing chores. So that particular day I'd been working out in the yard all day. And so you were seeing me all gassed out. We actually did it, team. We got that one, and I'm actually loving this axe. It's all in the form, believe it or not, and I know most people will believe that. Most people would believe it's all in form. That was a good split. We're gonna call that one good for right now. Toss that over there. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, last week the Lord told me to just sit with him. That's why I haven't uploaded to any of my channels in the last week. That is what you call dangerous. Misjudge, miscalculation. It'd be like that sometimes. That's why I like to aim it first and then get to it. And so what I did is I listened. All right. God speaks and we listen. That's what a lot of Christians would tell you. Me being more spiritual and of non-specific denomination, I do the same. I just obey. You get a number of spirits coming to you and you test them. How do you test them? You make them say that Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior. Because if there's power in the name, and they can actually say the name without like getting all angry and feisty, then you know what you're receiving is from a helper spirit. I've had many encounters, many messages just come through me, and when I received these, like even yesterday as an example, I was feeling somewhat depressed, and I just kept hearing over and over and over, you disobeyed me, you abandoned me. And not true. And I was kind of in a negative space, so I just basically told the Spirit to tell me who our Lord and Savior was, and it could not say it until I told it to depart from me. And I banished it with a surge of light that I channeled down through me, and it was gone. And then throughout the day I got better. Okay, this one is giving us problems. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna switch to the big boy, to our maul. We're gonna see if I can bring some power down. This is an 8-pound maul, so at the end of this, however long, 36-inch handle, I don't know. It's kind of a decent amount of weight coming down. So we're gonna, there we go. Carved right through it. And nice and split. Now, you'll see in previous videos, I'm trying to really get these cut down, right? Now my wife, she really likes thinner logs. It's not a euphemism for anything, by the way. But she really does for the wood pile. She likes it. She likes smaller logs that can burn up easier and catch quicker, which is understandable. So that's why a lot of times you'll see me try to like get even logs that are already cut. You'll see me really try to get those even thinner. Not always worth it in my opinion for the struggle. At the end of the last video, this one was really giving me a run for my money. This the 8-pound maul was just bouncing off of it. Okay. And also, I really don't like doing the Warhammer move when this axe gets stuck and you can't get it out, and you have to lift the log up and smack it. You really embedded it in there. It's not fun to do. Not the most fun. So back to spirits and getting to the bulk of today's video. You always want to test the spirits because you got trickster spirits, no matter what religion or doctrine you fall under, they all talk about the negative in addition to the positive. The trickster spirits, the ones that come in and make a mockery of everything, and we'll try to get to you. So you just got to make sure. Sometimes you just got to put all you got into a swing. Here, I'll do one more good one. That was off target. I have a feeling that would have gone through. Was it? If it was on target, alas, it was not. That was good. That was satisfying. All right, that back up there. This one is big enough to cut down a little bit. You can see off of these other ones. You know, these are pretty good size. This is like half to, I don't know, maybe almost half. Not quite. It's over a quarter. That's for sure. That's what I was trying to find. This is more than a quarter. All right. So, just remember, guys, test the spirits, and they will guide you where you need to go. Just be humble, no matter what gift you have, because not everyone is gifted. I use air quotes in talking to the other side, receiving messages. I use air quotes because a lot of people will call you crazy. A lot of people will just be like, oh, you're imagining it. I went through most of my life being told that I was just over imaginative. I wasn't really having any sort of paranormal encounters. And, well, suffice to say that was a lie. because it still happens. There's, out of every place I've ever lived, which has been a decent amount, it's only been, I think, two definitive houses that I have not had any sort of paranormal experiences in. And some might say it's me that's haunted, or what have you, because sometimes it is the person, it's not the place. However, maybe in those instances it just wasn't ready to follow me wherever we were, or it found some other target. Oh, that was a clean cut straight through. Oh, that was satisfying. Let's get that ripped out for you. Alright, I like that. You're just bringing that axe down. Follow through is important. Get it right in there. Oh, yeah, that was a great explosion, guys. That's a nice little chunk. I'm getting a lot of goodness out of this log. And I don't really understand why people are so thirsty to live in what they'd refer to as a fallen world. It's really difficult to think that a creator that created everything would create an entity that is more powerful than itself, or that something that can literally make anything happen would just choose to let you suffer without a reason. That is not what pure love is. That's not unconditional love. You can't say, I am unconditional love. I love humanity unconditionally, and then put conditions on it. It just doesn't make sense. But when you look at it from the spiritual perspective, where in that model reincarnation is a thing, all we are at this evolutionary stage in our spiritual evolution is we're just learning the lessons. We're learning how to deal with the tough times. It's actually quite fascinating. Ooh, someone had to slam on their brakes. We're going to switch to we're going to do one more good swing with this one, and then we'll switch to the big one if this doesn't work. Okay, here. Alright. Came down pretty good. And I did split it out. It's not going to cut, it's not going to rip if I'm going to pull on it right yet, but we're going to get there. We're going to get here. Set. Up. There we go. Nice little shard to start us. Clean up a little bit. But yeah, it makes no sense to say I love you unconditionally and then put conditions on that love and then give you like 70 years on average. Like 70.3 years is the average lifespan of a human being. Give you that long, one try to get it right, and then you spend eternity in eternal conscious torment. I don't subscribe to that. There's this, I've talked about it before, I'll talk about it again. There's a guy out there, YouTube channel is named Liam. He is talking about universal reconciliation, uses scripture to prove it, which a lot of people are all about that. But that model, universal reconciliation, also does fit in line with the spiritual beliefs that I have, because we are basically in that model destined to return to God, which is what in the spiritual realm they believe too. And I don't know what to call it. That's why I just keep referring to it as spiritual. I don't know what exactly to call it, because it's something that I've had since I was younger. Since I was really young, I was talking to an atheist. It's like 14 or so. And they were really struggling with the whole concept of hell. And I told them that this was just me at 15 years old. I just told them that I think there is truth in every single religion, and that something did happen to us on a global scale. And we are destined to go back to God. We're just having to go through these motions and learn these challenges. And then, lo and behold, 2013, I had some essential spiritual awakening. I was on the cusp of being an atheist, and because I felt like God had abandoned me, I was doing everything right as I was told to, and I was suffering greatly. And there's absolutely zero accountability there, because again, a creator that can do anything, snap his fingers and make everything fine, just allowing everyone to suffer here before suffering eternally when they go to hell because they didn't accept him. And ooh, that just popped back. Gotta be careful. Always control the axe, guys. Always control the axe. And yeah, they were having difficulty with that. Sometimes I get on a rant and I get on a tangent and I stop halfway through, and that's probably most of my videos, and I'm sorry about that. My attention was completely distracted by that. I want to finish off this log, so I'm grabbing the big boy. I'm going to see what we can do with it. Okay, right there is where we want to be. That was a good one. Now it's really stuck in there. Go figure. What have I done? Let's just do this. How's that? That works just fine. We'll give it, hopefully, one more swing. We'll see. Since I was young, I've always had this, and that's why I don't know exactly what to call it. 2013, I had a spiritual awakening. And there are conspiracy theories around that with CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. And you know how in 2015, the Mandela effect happens and no one has any sort of documented history with misremembering on a mass scale pre-2012, which is, you know, when the Mayan calendar was supposed to end and all that fun stuff. So I'm gonna call it on that log. We've been at it for a while, so we'll just grab a new one. We'll go with a small log this time. I needed to get my revenge from before. It's not a bad haul from one log. Telling you what. Nice. One strike split. Let's go, just as advertised. So, since I was young, I've just had this knowing. And also, since I was young, I've had very vivid dreams. People tell me that's astral projection. I don't know. I had a dream that when I was very young, I was floating above my body. Like I was up at the ceiling is where my head was. Staring down at my childish body sleeping on this couch in the living room. And I suddenly became filled with rage, and I reached down, picked up my body, and started dragging it towards this train station down the hill. It didn't actually exist. Down the hill in reality it was just a driveway, but in the dream it was a train track, and there was like just a cargo train waiting there with the door open, and this entity drags me kicking and screaming down this hill in our front yard. Oh, that was off. You see, I hit it right here instead of right here, which is where you want to aim. So I was being dragged kicking and screaming down there, and I was tossed on the train. My perspective shifts towards me. The entity is blurry. I can't really make out what it is, and then the train car starts moving. And when I woke up, I had this sense that the devil was stealing me from my family, which is very interesting. I mean, that is one of the earliest instances that I've had of myself dreaming. I've had other paranormal encounters since then. I used to hear just disembodied voices when I was young. I remember very vividly one day I was in the kitchen with my brothers, and they had like a friend over or something. And we were just sitting there in the in the kitchen, and I heard a voice, a deep male voice, plain as day, say something in my right ear. It was like, "Hey, dude." There's a boom right here, and I turned. There was just like a space, like just enough room for like someone to stand there, and then a wall. Unfortunately, no one was there. So, one of those vivid memories I just remember. And I had a dream once where I was getting a tour of that first house we lived in. And basically it was that 7 ghosts haunted the house. And I was going through part of it. And of course the power was out and my family was not home, which I was the youngest, so I was never left home alone. And then all of a sudden we get to the kitchen and just hear this maniacal laugh starting from the upstairs. And there was a stairwell on the other side of the bathroom that went upstairs. It was a very weird layout. But it filled my ears. And then all of a sudden I woke up out of a dream to the sun shining. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get up for the day. So I started my day at that time, that day, whatever dream that was. I don't even know where that one went. Because I split it straight in half. Now, no, it's over here. It's right here. And now that we've done that, I'm going to have my first little water break. We got ourselves a nice little pile going right over here. Just a small one. It's a modest pile, but I've got a lot. I'll show you guys what I'm working with here. So this is my setup. I got my chopping block, which is greatly used. These small logs here. And then we got these big ones that you can see over here. Neighbor's house is over there, and I don't want to like film their house. So far, this is our haul that we've got. So, and we're looking pretty good right now. I spilled my coffee earlier when I tried to set it on the floor, so I just set it on this log here that I'm using for the tripod. We'll get ourselves back in frame here. All right, there we go. So Woodsplitting does work a lot. It's a great workout. One of my favorite workouts. And I need to stay regular out here. I've got a lot to do. And you know, as I talk about like listening to these messages that I get in testing spirits, I don't want you to think that I don't believe in Jesus, because I absolutely do. I just don't, once I study history, I just don't believe that Dante knew what he was talking about when he made Dante's Inferno. That's actually what the basis of what we understand as the eternal conscious torment is. And then of course in the late 1800s, I think it was, is when the rapture was introduced into the mainstream, the Schofield Bible. And that's what started a great revival at that time. Because of course, you do want to be, you know, it makes sense that people would like to hear about how they don't have to suffer. But you know, we suffer every single day. I talked about it before, say it again. You can go to that. Basically, there is a world population calculator, and I'm not going to be able to get this to sit straight, so I'm just going to toss it over there. I want to make sure that I am in shot, so we're going to pop this over like that. But there's a world population sort of calculator out there that you can follow, and it shows how many people die, how many people are birthed, and every single second, get off me, sweat bee, multiple people are born and multiple people die. You know, we have population growth because there's increase. There are more births than there are deaths every second, but they still do happen. So people are constantly suffering all day, every day, especially with the economy where it's at. A lot of people are giving hope because it doesn't make sense that a bloodthirsty God that demanded sacrifice for putting us in an imperfect position. There's going to be a side rant here, and that is the whole thing about whether God is in control, whether we are accountable for everything or not. Because this just came to me while I was talking, and it's like, this is an argument for universal reconciliation. It's like, if we inherited the curse of Adam through Adam and Eve eating the apple, what is that? Why are we then not able to get the salvation of Christ dying on the cross when he defeated the curse of Adam? That's why oftentimes he is depicted like there is a skull depicted at the bottom of the cross, and that is representative of the skull of Adam. I'm not going to be able to use this one, guys, and I think I've tried this one multiple times. To do this, I have this area over here where I have bigger logs, and I'm going to set it there because there ain't no way we get that one. Maybe if my wife really wants me to get it done, I'll just grab a chainsaw and do it. We will see. Let's see, do we want a bigger one? I feel like we want a bigger one. I don't, however, want to disturb. Okay, I'm not going to disturb this one. We got a really big one over here that's sitting atop a pile, and I just don't really feel like disturbing it right now. I'm going to get this guy right here and go for it. So, a lot of people say you have to accept Jesus' sacrifice to be saved, but it's like, we didn't accept the curse of Adam to inherit it. So why can we not also inherit salvation? It's a very interesting concept to think about. And of course, everyone's going to look directly in the Bible, which does contradict itself in certain cases. I don't care what anyone says. It does do that. How can you say in Romans 10, all you have to do is accept it and you're saved, and then turn around and say that it is the mark of a saved man to not do X, Y, Z? It's like, oh, well, you accepted Jesus Christ's gift, and when you willfully sin, that's worse because you know what you're doing is wrong. It's just like, humans are crazy, man. We're born in a cursed world, according to what mainstream Christianity wants us to believe. And none of us are perfect, but you just need to accept Jesus' gift. So you have to say that, and you have to be a good person. You can't just be a good person because you're not savable. It's like, man, and I don't know. This is why I have a problem with it. I truly feel like the message was tainted. I do. You follow. I really believe that Christ came down and did what he did. And everyone was radical for him and loved him because he was so different from the rabbis at the time. And then Rome could not handle this event. So they're like, okay, we believe we're all Christian now. And then they merged it with pagan beliefs. And so what we get now is not a true doctrine of Christ. And it's tough to know that. So that's why the personal relationship is very important. And this is why I try to live my life without judgment, because we're all suffering. And unless you're in the position of someone who's really suffering, who are you to judge their actions? Who are you? Or no one. So, I go back to my original statement that I was saying when I went off on this tangent. And that is that everyone is struggling currently. We have billionaires that are just reaping the benefits of all this stuff. the system that they have built to enslave us all. They don't plant trees, fruit-bearing female trees. They plant mostly male trees to increase pollen and to make us allergic and make it sick. And they don't make it to where we can pick freely the fruits from these trees. I mean, we can do that ourselves. That's where I'm getting at. And how the shift is coming and what that's going to look like. Because we will be taking the power back for ourselves. You just have to choose it. You have to choose it just like you choose Christ as your Lord and Savior. You can choose to make your life just a little bit better while you're on this earth. And we all have that choice. I'm going to try to shave this one down. Specifically, if I can get it to sit. Here, let's switch it to that one. Nope, how about this way? Please? Okay, great. We did it! Yeah, we did it! We did it! We did it! Yay! There we go, we got a nice little shave. But yes. And then we have this, we've had it pounded into our heads that it makes no sense that this is how the world works, and that a loving God would not condemn you to hell, which he would not. And so a lot of people believe and are hell-bent on disproving God. So we have all these atheists that believe that nothing happens after you die. And so, what is the point? We just sit here to suffer. We just sit here to suffer, and we're going to suffer now. We're just stardust, randomly gained consciousness, and I don't believe that for a single second. There is more to all of this. We are of divine creation, and we are worth love of ourselves and love of each other. And that is essentially the core of the commandments. Love, appreciate God, which I do, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. The core of the message is love. Just love. That is it. And this one's not going to chop, is it? Because I can't get it. Yep. There we go. To heck with it. And so, that's all that I really have to say about that spiritual side. But we are shifting, we are changing. Now, you get to some of the New Age beliefs, which I'm not New Age by any degree. I mean, there is spiritual guides, and sure, but you test the spirits, right? You test the spirits to make sure they are of the light and not trying to deceive you. And I've heard so many Christian podcasters point to New Age believers and be like, you see how they adorn themselves with gold and jewelry and all that? Well, have you ever seen a really obese preacher that is clearly wearing obesity, clearly wearing gluttony on his sleeve? And a lot of people like that also adorn themselves with jewelry. Just go to the Vatican if you want to see riches out of control. Just do that. And then you'll see that argument doesn't really hold a lot of water. It's only beneficial for those podcasters and the point that they're trying to make in that moment. That is why, you got to be careful who you listen to. What we consume is what we are ultimately destined to become. So, I once saw someone say that the biggest waste of time in the world is video games, and that is not true. The biggest waste of time in the world is pornography. Because you can at least get some joy, hang out with friends, do whatever. Get some good old wholesome entertainment and joy, learn a lesson out of video games. In fact, it was Metal Gear Solid that, through its use of violence and storytelling, actually, when you peel it all back, it's very, very obviously an anti-war sentiment that showcases government conspiracies and all that fun spy stuff, you know? It is government control. I don't know, in a way, that was such a good shot, guys. I can't really put into words how thin that target was, but I'm just really impressed that I hit it. Pleased with that. But yeah, government conspiracies have put in my head not to trust the government, which is actually really good because I played that game in 1999 and then the 2000 election happened right after that. And of course, it's been since then with the recount after that whole fiasco with Florida, them announcing Al Gore as president, and then them saying actually it's George Bush. It made me really doubt the legitimacy of elections. It happened when I was 12, so put that into perspective. This is how I've been thinking about stuff since I was a child, which should not shock anyone, especially if you go back and take into account what I was talking about earlier. There we go. We're going to see if we can split this one, guys. I have all the faith in the world that we got this. Oof. That's what happens sometimes. I was just off. I'm not going to spend the time to reset that one. That's going to take way too much time. All right, back to this guy. So, good thing is that I have known atheists that have turned and have they've had what I refer to as spiritual awakenings, and they are getting into tarot, they are getting into all those things, and it's better to at least believe in something in the afterlife. It is going to happen, that there is life after this existence, instead of simply believing that there is nothing, because those people are the angriest and the most miserable because they have not met God ever, and they truly believe that religion is evil. And while there are evil people in religion, I'm not going to say that it's just full of saints. What I will say is that you can't judge every single group of people off of one person. So not every single atheist is super depressed, I suppose, but the majority of them are. And I'm really thrilled whenever I get to talking to one of these people, when I reconnect with some of my old friends and they say they've had spiritual awakenings or anything like that. What else is really interesting is when atheists hang out with me and they have paranormal experiences. Stuff that they just can't explain, which has happened multiple times. It's really cool to see that happen. Just, they get the deer in the headlights look. Just this eyes are just huge just because of what's happened, what they've experienced. It's kind of crazy, kind of cool. But, alright, we're going to get this right here. Nailed it. Then I think I'm going to grab some coffee. And I'm going to sit here for a second. Because it's been quite the workout so far. We got a lot of energy left in the tank, but breaks are important. Breaks are definitely important, guys. This is one of those things that gets your heart rate elevated and gets you going. And I don't want to come off as preachy or anything. This is just how my mind works. And I talk about things like that all the time. Like, I sit there and I think about how the world has changed, how our ancestors were in this land. They didn't have to pay property taxes. They didn't have to work crazy amounts of hours for a job that they couldn't even really put into words what they were accomplishing. They just did what they needed to for their tribes, for the people around them, to live for their community. And they worked the land, they hunted, they did all these things, and they just were living these physical lives, and that's why they were not having the issues that we currently have in the Western world with obesity and They weren't eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They were not doing that. They were eating when they could. They weren't told, don't eat before bed because it's bad for your digestion. They weren't told, don't eat X, Y, Z because it's bad for you, which, by the way, this is why I don't trust a lot of science. And speaking about diets, it was the sugar industry that paid off scientists doing a test, I think it was in the 40s, that they told them to say that fat was bad and that sugar was actually good, and all you needed was more sugar. So they started selling fat-free stuff, and fat-free stuff does not taste good, so they increased sugar. And so the sugar industry paid off scientists to fake these results and increase sales of sugar. And I want you to listen to this concept, and I want you to believe it, that anytime, there are two things in this world that will complicate any relationship. That is sex, that is money. So with money comes status, and sex usually follows with money. So you could say money is the root of all corruption. However, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The love of money is the root of all evil. So take that way you will. But once you take something pure, something well-intentioned, and you give it money, then suddenly they're willing to compromise. Because us as human beings, we're willing to just sell out so long as we are secure, because we don't like the unknown. So that is why mainstream science has stagnated. There's something called the zero-point energy field, and whether you believe in it or not, you can look into these things and you can go to actual official documents instead of listening to some rambling conspiracy theorist on the internet and confirm this for yourself. But multiple inventions were confiscated, the creators killed and silenced. That would have given us like a gasoline-free car. That would have given us sustainable energy that is essentially free. Nikola Tesla even was looking how to utilize wireless electricity for the entire globe. And JP Morgan, who, this fun fact, wild conspiracy theory about the Titanic and how he lured everyone on there who opposed the central bank, and he sank it, and then right after he got the central bank funded. He was the reason that we have the fucking central bank that we do today. He was working and funding Tesla, and he was like, well, how do we put a meter on that? And when Tesla was like, no, we're going to give it free to everyone, he put the kibosh on him. He used his power, his money, his influence to really make that man live in poverty, in a hellish existence, and he passed away penniless and sad, very sad, how that happened. So JP Morgan is one of the people that I dislike the most in my research, in addition to just the Roman Catholics as well. We talk about Rome way too much. We've been living in their shadow for way too long as well. So a lot of people think we're destined to have a revived Roman Empire when the biblical end times come. We'll see. I don't know. What I've been getting is that there are three batches of timelines that we are splitting into. A couple years ago during the Phoenix Logs, I talked about the convergence, and that we had about 10 years before everything would play out and the sorting would occur. And essentially what that was is all timelines were collapsing to where our consciousnesses were sharing this space so we could affect each other and sort where we were supposed to go when everything changed. And the convergence period has ended, and we're now entering the period of the divergence. And there are three bulks of timelines. There's a negatively charged timeline, there's the positively charged timeline, and then there's what is called the ascended timeline or the blessed timeline. And that is going to be where humanity really gets in tune with itself, with nature. We break free of everything, and just the powers that be collapse. The people take the power back, and we, with our spirituality and our nature, we just get these gifts. We get these DNA unlocks, basically, and we just live these very good, wholesome lives in abundance. And now, are there going to be challenges? Of course, and that's not to say that there are no challenges, but because, that's just how humans are. The goalposts constantly move. We say we'll be happy when we get one thing. We get that thing. Very quickly, we become bored. We're just constantly craving something else, and that's why we're addicted to our phones. So, I just shot a bunch of knowledge at you, a bunch of information, and I drank some coffee, got myself a little energy boost. I'm re-energized. We're going to have a little bit of water. And we're going to get back to it. I think I'm going to try this one. Feel like this one will be good. Oh, I really dug that one in deep the last time I swung it. Okay, so yeah, sometimes I have difficulty listening to spirit because it tells me things that I don't want to hear. However, I did know that my layoff was inevitable. I know that everything is temporary, even on a long enough timeline. Our lives are temporary. Again, you can look at that world population calendar or Google one. Man, that was a bad swing. And just to see how temporary life really is. I lost my train of thought, believe it or not. So I have difficulty listening to it, and it tells me a lot of things that I don't want to hear. Oh, I keep bashing the crap out of this. But whenever I do listen to it, good things happen. So I have just learned over time to just breathe deep. Where my fear is coming from is from the unknown, and I do know that what is coming to me is much better than anything I can fathom on this earthly plane. I'm done with this one. I've had it set up 3 times, and it's just in prime cutting position, and then I just mess it up. So that is my fault. That is my bad. And I'm sorry to have wasted your time with that one. Oh, I don't want to move that one because that is... Okay. The big part of the pile relies on this one log I wanted to grab. I don't want to do that. Get off me, bugs. Ooh, there's a lot of bugs over here. Oh, God. Hornets. Hornets. Shit.